Three, two, one, sync.
Think.
Three, two, one, sync.
Think.
Hi, Rogue.
Hi, Zaxers.
So, before we start, question. You're familiar with Cyrano de Bergerac, right?
No. What?
Okay.
I don't know what that is. I don't think that was English.
It's from France.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
was right. I know what
Yeah.
it is now. It's French.
Yeah. Okay, so it's a play from 1800 Paris, and you've probably seen this trope in a lot of things. Basically, this guy isn't as attractive, so he finds this guy who is attractive, who also likes the same girl that he likes, and he hides behind a bush basically and tells the guy what to say.
Hold on. Wait. You lost me a little bit.
Okay,
Did you
so
say. So, this is. I understand this trope, but the way you explained it was that they like the same girl,
yeah,
and he gets a guy who's more attractive. He's
mhm.
like cucking himself, is
Well,
the way you explained it
yes,
to me.
that is the story. Yes, that is
That
literally
makes
the
no
story.
sense. I'm very glad that that trope changed, because that makes no sense.
What's interesting though is that it didn't change because what we're talking about today is a modern retelling
Well,
of this
that's
play.
dumb. What is this? She's the man? Am I
Hash-
right?
Hashtag
Mm.
ROXY.
12th night? No? Okay.
Well, you're right about that. And but that movie was good.
It was a good
So,
movie. I agree.
yeah, but this wasn't. Okay, well, it actually, this is a little different because I'm not going shot for shot because it wasn't that bad. Like, audience review was like, Rotten Tomatoes was like 71% or something. I don't think any real critics have gotten to it yet. I don't know if they're ever going to.
Probably not.
That's so sad. But
Was it
anyway,
straight to streaming service?
it didn't have like a Netflix at the top, but it's like made in Canada. But it had like Boo Boo Stewart is in it and Danny Trejo is in it. So it like had a budget.
Boo Boo Stewart?
Well, Boo Boo Stewart is I don't know if you ever heard of the Disney Channel original movie Descendants.
Oh, yeah.
He's Jafar's son in that.
Okay. I never watched that movie.
I only saw the first one. I heard
I
two's interesting. Don't know about three, but like
I know
it.
like probably maybe two actors from that movie.
Okay. Well, the Asian.
Nope, not that
Okay.
one. I know
Cameron
oh,
Boyce
yeah, Cameron Boyce,
and
R.I.P.
Dove Cameron.
and Dove Cameron, yep.
Okay. Well, that was a detour that didn't get us anywhere. Boo
Yeah.
Boo Stewart is in this movie, and so is Danny Trejo. He was a lot of things. They have like a framed picture of him because he's the principal in this movie. And in the framed picture, it's him as Machete.
Danny Trejo as a principal is hilarious.
Right. And he knows it. It's great. So I enjoyed parts of the movie, but back to the whole Cyrano deal. So they play this. I don't know if you remember when not in a video, but when I just as a person talked to you about the decom Let It Shine. I think we might have
Sure.
watched it together.
No, what's it
Um,
about?
it's also a Cyrano de Bergerac retelling. Um, Cyrus is like he's a rapper and his friend's a better looking rapper, and then Coco Jones is a singer, and
Okay, so I remember vaguely the movie Let It Shine, but I think it's just because I remember seeing the commercials for it,
mm,
but I don't remember
okay,
ever watching it with you. So,
all right,
but I block
well,
out a lot of things, so you know.
it wasn't that good. Okay, so they're basically they're both retellings, but hashtag Roxy sticks a little more closely to the source material than Let It Shine. Let It Shine took a lot more liberties, but like in this, the biggest thing is that Cyrus like Cyrano, has a huge nose. Like,
Okay,
it's a prosthetic that they had to use, put on the actor.
that's a rude portrayal of an unattractive person, but okay.
I mean, that's the story. That's, in 1800 France, having a big nose was a bad move. Also, this is like a side note, but this is just something that I was thinking about. Like, at one point, like, he has like a nose job fund, and like his mom gives him like pizza money, and um, she's
I
like, "Can
want
you like?"
pizza money.
Well, she's like, "Okay, I'm going on a date tonight. Please buy pizza this time." And so he puts the 20 in his nose job. As soon as she
In
leaves, he
his
puts it
nose.
in his nose job
Oh,
fund,
darn.
and
That's
then
also interesting.
under the couch he pulls out this old pizza box and just puts it on the counter so it looks like he ate a pizza.
That is way too much work, and your house would constantly
Sad.
smell like old pizza.
But like she's so disinterested in his existence, it's kind of hilarious. I'll preface the fact that like she was like, "We need to talk about the fact that you're not going to English class at all, and you just did a major prank, and you got 2 weeks detention. But like, I'm going on a date, so bye." Like,
We'll talk
Mother of the
later.
Year,
Kisses.
army medic. Okay, back to the story. So he's in love with his best friend Roxy, and she is the perfect girl.
How did
Boo Boo
she?
Stu.
How did he even get a best friend that's a perfect girl? Honestly, for being
Because
honest.
they've been friends since school, but she's so perfect that she doesn't care about his nose.
Oh, she's that
Although,
kind of perfect.
well, she's a lot of different kinds of perfect, and we'll get into
What an
those
OC.
later. Okay. But before we get there, because like, um, Boo Boo Stewart is a new guy in school, and he sees Roxy, and he's like, "Zooey Mama, look at her," but I can't talk to her. Um, and then Roxy sees him and she's like, "Oh wow, he's like kind of cute, I guess, in a Boo Boo Stewart kind of way." That's the line in the movie.
Yeah,
And,
it
and
was
then,
really breaking the fourth wall.
yeah. Um, so then they have this thing because they're best friends that like they always meet at the coffee shop together. And anyway, his cousin's like, "You need to just tell her how you feel about her." And she just says, "You know what, actually, I kind of like this guy, Boo Boo Stewart," before he can even confess to her. So he's like, "Oh, okay, so I won't confess to you." Then, so he meets Boo Boo Stewart and he starts doing that whole deal. So, my question to you is, um, if you found out like this guy who like says all the right things to you and looks exactly how you want him to look, he's the whole package for you, you find out that he was actually two people working together to woo you.
Well, I think that's normally like the downfall in the common trope, right? Where like
Yeah.
it's the girl finds out that the guy has an earpiece or whatever, and it's like it wasn't you saying all those sweet things or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like the
and
common,
that's
yeah,
that's what happens here basically too. I just want to know like how you would feel. Like, are you mad at both of them? Are you mad at
yes,
one of them? Yeah.
both,
And
especially if one of them was my best friend. Like, what?
how long do
Rude.
you think it would take you to figure it out, though?
Oh gosh, I don't
If
know,
one of
because
them
how
is your
many?
best friend and basically talking exactly how your best friend
Yeah,
talks to you.
that's true. But I mean, I could imagine if you just met someone, you would be like, "Wow, this is a lot like my best friend. We're gonna be great friends, right?" Um, I just don't know how often, like they would never be able to be seen in the same place at the same time, right?
Well, in this movie, it kind of moves a little fast, and it like horrifyingly so, because basically they get once they get together, sort of like the he Cyrano wrote a letter to Roxy that about his feelings. That's like basically what he was going to say to her at the coffee shop before he found out she was into Boo Boo Stewart. So he got sad and tossed it in the trash. His cousin, who goes to school and is like shipping them and like thinks he should just go for it, because she literally told him like nobody cares about your nose. You're just in your head. Like go for it.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like, no, I can't, my nose. And then she's like, okay. So she puts the. Which honestly, though, if I had that, like, I'm not really mad at him for having image issues. Like, that's reasonable. But, like, still. Anyway. So she puts the letter in her locker, and then this is where I feel. This is the main problem with all of these. Not so much the trope itself, because the trope has, like, different sort of characters, but the Roxy character is always really dumb and shallow in this way. Because why would you see this? Her complaint is that Boo Boo is cute, but he has never talked to me at
He's never
all. He's never said
talked.
two. Like she like sees him and she waves, but like he hasn't worked up the nerve to talk to her. Not necessarily because he's shy, but because he could tell that she's different than the other girls. So he has to really like make a good
Oh
impression
my
on her
gosh.
because she's just too amazing for him to just talk to her.
Ugh.
So Cousin puts in Cyrano's letter in her locker. Roxy opens it and immediately is like, oh my gosh. Boo Boo wrote me the most loving letter of my life. In all these big fancy words that you know who else uses? My best friend. Who
See
when I
now,
and like I hold
this is the
before
kind of thing I
okay.
wonder about with
Okay.
like not even mistake. Would this be considered mistaken identity? Misinterpreted identity? It's like typically in these kinds of movies, once the girl finds out, oh, this was actually for my best friend, she just immediately switches her feelings because she's like, wow, he's so sweet. He wrote me this note that's all loving and stuff. But I'm like, if you didn't already have those feelings, or at least have like budding feelings, why would that suddenly change your mind? I don't know. If you were already going at, I don't know how to describe it. You know
No,
what I mean?
I no,
If
I
it
do
was
get.
completely platonic, I would just be like, that's really weird.
Well, I
Uh
watched this
oh,
movie.
better put that on ice.
Well, I watched this movie with my roommate, and like she pointed out that Roxy's basically just in love with the alphabet. Like words just sway her. Her heart, like, is. And then the way I compare her is she's basically a dating sim because like you
Okay.
say the right thing, she's like, oh, you say the wrong thing, ah,
Oh, so not a
like.
dating sim, but like maybe.
I was trying not to say it, you bad lady, but
Well,
yeah.
that's different than a dating sim.
Okay,
It's like
fair
the
enough.
opposite of a dating sim.
I feel like I've seen some that aren't of the same brand that have similar rules. But anyway, yes. So, okay, yeah. So, Boo Boo brings Cyrano to his house, and then he's just like really dumb, which is like, I don't know why they make him like extra dumb, that like he doesn't even seem to understand the concept of what they're doing. So like he's aware that he needs Cyrano's help to get her to like him. So then they're like they make this arrangement basically where all her texts to him forward to him, to Cyrano.
Okay.
So he's in on all their conversations. So like I don't think Boo Boo ever texts her basically. For a lot of the movie. And then at one point she's like, "Hey, I just settled in. Do you wanna have a Skype call?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And then Cyrus is like right there and has to like duck next to the desk and just sort of whisper notes to him. And then he said, like, what they. I'm trying to, like, figure out, like, how to explain this. But, like, I don't like what movies make me think smart people are supposed to be. Because, like, I'm not, like, a scholar or anything. But, like, you're pretty smart. And I know lots of smart people. But maybe I just didn't notice this. Are you constantly throwing book quotes at people?
Not book quotes, but I am constantly. Wow, are you sure I'm smart? I am constantly throwing other quotes, dumb quotes,
Well,
particularly like Scott Pilgrim and Homestar Runner quotes, and
well,
nobody gets them. That's on me, I
well,
guess.
she's like, Chekhov said this, and then his reply is like, well, Aristotle said this, and then like she's
Oh,
like, well,
like
Miguel said this. Like that's
philosopher.
like yeah,
Ugh.
but like also like, and then like at one point, it's just, and then like she's like looking at Boo Boo out her window, and she's like, oh, if like that which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet, blah blah
Ugh.
blah. And I'm like, is he supposed to like follow that? Because like I know you're quoting Romeo and Juliet right now, but like am I gonna like have to Google like what's my line? Like I'm not prepared for you, Roxy. I what's also weird too is that he just thought she was cute, and now like his whole life has been upended by like
His
Cyrus goes to his house and
scheme.
he's like, we need to make you seem smart and mysterious. He wipes his social media
Oh my god.
because he's too dumb,
Social
obviously.
media permadeath.
And like, I'm just like, what if there was like a picture of his like family dog on there? Like, there, you have social media like
You
to
should have
keep
backed
some
it up.
memories and things. Like,
No, you don't keep. You don't use social media as your storage.
not always, but
That
like,
is
some
real dumb.
I mean, I just feel like it's possible you could have like some stuff on there. Like I use like my Instagram to keep like some stuff. Like if I'm gonna delete a picture, but I don't want to like lose it forever, I'll like post it. But like I'm just saying, like he had a social media presence. He had friends on there. What if there was like a conversation between him and his friend that was like pretty stupid, but like meant a lot to them? Like it's gone now. That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying. It's just I don't think it's that fair that he did that, but it's fine. So, like, also the reason that Roxy's so perfect is because she's so like smart and deep, but like, I don't know. The more we get to know her in this movie, it's just like, why would you want to date her at all? She's not really like a giving partner in any way. Because like Boo Boo goes over to her place and like it was really weird because like they'd been talking like just that day. And so she invites him over and he like has his head in her lap, which like seemed like they were together for like a really long time, but also like because Cyrus, Cyrano, whatever has been talking to her, he already professed his love for her after like 4 hours. And then she was
I
like, "Oh my
mean,
gosh, I'm falling for you."
that's high school, I guess.
I
This is high
guess
school, right?
it is a high school story, but
Yeah,
it's like,
okay.
and it's like their senior year, and like I don't know. It still seemed like a little fast, cause like they were still talking
Yeah.
about like how he's probably crazy for being in love with her after 4 hours. Um, But he goes to her house and then he starts talking about like he's like, "Oh yeah, I like to read comics." And she's like, "Oh, you read graphic novels?" And he's like, I guess, but like Archie and Jughead are so funny." She's like, "Ew."
Oh,
And I'm like, "So
this
he
is
can't
such an
so like
OC.
and like and at one point like when he's talking to Cyrus, like he's like about she mentions Chekhov and he's like, "Oh, like Star Trek." And he's like, "Don't say that around her." So he can't have any like pop culture interest at all. Like he can only like books that are
Well, okay,
boring.
except here's the thing. She says, when he says he likes comics, and then she's like, do you mean graphic novels? That's like even worse almost than just reading comics, right?
Mm.
Like you'd
I
think
mean,
someone who's into graphic novels would also like Star Trek.
yeah, like I guess it's just weird, but like especially because like you assumed that they were graphic novels. So then when I
Right.
mentioned like when I reconfirmed that they're comics, and you're like disgusted, like what? I don't. Yeah, I don't know why.
That's the worst.
So he's also just kind of bored talking to her because she's just smart. Like that's all she cares about is being smart. So at one point, so then he doesn't have Cyrus like in an earpiece or anything. He's going rogue because he's like, okay,
Oh,
you
did you
got,
say rogue?
cause yes. So cause like I guess one thing too that's kind of that is a little different is that Boo Boo is like, okay, like you definitely helped me. Like I get what kind of girl she is, but like if we're gonna date, we're gonna date. So like she needs to get to know me at some point, right? And slowly but surely, he just they this is something that they sort of bring up, but they don't follow through with. And like the ending, like if I'm supposed to like take meaning from this story, is really heartbreaking as far as his character development because he just keeps realizing that like his personality like just isn't good enough.
Yeah.
Period. Because
Same.
at one point because at one point he's on the football team and she comes to a
Okay.
game and she goes down to him and she's like, "Hey, um so did you score any touchdowns?" And he's like, "I play defense." "Oh, do you get any defenses?" He's like, I guess so." And she's like, "Wow, honestly, if you weren't so eloquent and like all those texts that you send me and everything, like, if I'm being completely honest, this is boring me like crazy." And he looks so devastated because he loves football. This
That
is
is
his one thing.
so strange.
And he's like, "You're you're bored?" And she's like, "Yeah, but what?" And he's like, "What if I like wasn't eloquent?" And she's like, "But you are. That's my favorite thing about you."
Oh my god.
And he just looks so
So
devastated
sad.
because then she says this, which is the real nail in the coffin. She says, "So many girls just care about you for what you look like, but I care about who you are on the inside." And then he's like, "Oh my gosh, there's nothing to me at all."
No, he should have said, I'm football on the inside.
He looked just so heartbroken. And then, like, other stuff happened that doesn't really matter, but, like, just
That
throughout
would
the.
be, honestly, and obviously this is not where the direction that they went, but that would be an interesting story and kind of, I think, a subversion of a
Mhm,
lot of tropes to pursue his feelings about all of it and
mhm,
be like, this is a like cool jock who a lot of people like for his looks, and this nerdy, just beyond nerdy, like book smart annoying girl fell for him, and then following like how he feels about her saying things like, I like you for who you really are, but then she actually doesn't because he's really football.
mhm. Yeah. Like,
That would be interesting, but
I.
that's not what
Once
they did, so.
once that happened, that was all I could think about because then, but then I was back to just like, Roxy, you're just kind of a jerk, period. Because then she says this, which like, okay, like we're all under the understanding if you say "don't be offended"
Yeah, like,
means you
no
can totally
offense.
be offended. Yeah.
No
So
offense, but.
she says, "Oh, if you see." if you like look out in the bleachers and I'm just reading a book, don't be offended. And then she goes up to the bleachers and immediately pulls out a book.
Oh my gosh.
I like okay, like you got me to
See,
stop talking about Archie comics. I can't like Star Trek. I can't do anything. You can't even watch one dumb football game of mine, which is not dumb, by the way, because I love it. But mm,
so that's
ugh,
interesting too, because you'd think that um, if she's like, oh, I like you for who you really are on the inside because you're so eloquent and stuff, she would be able to put her dumb book down and try to be interested in something that he's all about if she likes him for who he is on the inside, right?
yeah,
Like, that's all relationships are, right? It's
it's
compromise.
yeah. I mean, and it's just like, and again, it's just so not even all over the place. It's just like also I just keep feeling bad for Boo Boo Stewart because like he wasn't even that into her in the first place. But like Cyrano needs to use him as a puppet so he can vicariously have a relationship with Roxy through him. So he sort of forced Boo Boo in. Now Boo Boo has feelings, and now Boo Boo's having an existential crisis because he thinks like he's like his whole life is nothing because it doesn't matter to Roxy. When if these people would have just left him alone, he would have been fine. And they don't care about that. And in the end, the movie just makes him like just shallow, like because then at
Oh.
the end, not shallow in like a bad way, because he's
What
actually really well.
does that
Okay,
mean?
I don't think shallow is the right word, but here's what happens. Boo Boo realizes he's like, oh my gosh, you're in love with her, Cyrus. You want to be with her.
It took him the whole movie to realize that.
Well, actually, this is actually like halfway through the movie.
Mm.
At a certain point, we just don't see Boo Boo till like the after credits scene. I'm not even kidding.
That's hilarious.
So he's like,
It's
you're
like, this is a rom-com now. We don't need a third wheel.
like it's and so he's like, you need to tell her that you love her and whatever. And he's like, but you love her too. And he's like, yeah, but like you text her all the time. I haven't. At one point, it's kind of implied that he was also texting her through the during the game, and like
Maybe it was when he was not playing because he's on the defense.
maybe yeah. Well, because I mean she wasn't watching anyway, so she doesn't know.
That still doesn't make sense, but whatever.
No. But then what was the thing?
Texting.
Oh wait, no. Okay, so Boo Boo Stewart gets tackled,
Oh no, boo boo.
and then like yeah, so we don't see him anymore. But then he breaks up with her via text, and he just is like, I don't think we should see each other anymore. See you around. Letter C. Letter
Or
U.
not,
Yeah.
because we should see each other.
And like they in the end like they get together, Roxy and Cyrus. And like I didn't even like really want them to be together anymore.
Yeah.
So um one so like this is a modern retelling and everything. But they also like changed the ending. So in the original play, sorry, spoiler alert for you like people who are really going to take the time to like read the Cyrano play
Yeah, spoilers for this ancient play.
from 1897.
It's ancient.
Oh gosh. I like someone who's like, oh, you ruined my trip to France.
Yeah, they were gonna go see that play. Now
Yeah,
they know
that
the
was the
ending.
whole. So basically, Cyrano dies because someone drops a log on his head.
Someone, not like a particular person or.
Wikipedia said someone.
Okay. Guess it wasn't important then. What a way to go. Killed by an unnamed character.
Yeah. So he's like delirious and everything, and like at this point, like in the original play, Roxanne finds out like it was you, and he never admits it, and he like dies, never admitting it. But he's like, at least I have my panache. So that's that. That's how the play ends. This, he gets beat up by guys that he'd wronged at the beginning of the movie, and he gets like a really bad concussion. Like he's bleeding through his bandage,
Oh my gosh.
and like he's in the hospital, and I'm like, change it, somebody.
Please, somebody change his bandage.
Like it's bleeding through. Um, but he lives, and he sort of has like a concussion for like a little bit, but like as soon as that's over, it's like really not relevant at all. So I don't know why they felt the need to include it, because it didn't even, like, even if we're gonna go with the fact that it's a modern retelling and it's just really sad if he dies. You know, teen rom-coms need a happy ending to get together. But
I
like,
guess.
she finds out he's been lying to her, and um, okay, yeah, she finds out he's been lying to her, and then she goes to confront him, and he's like, he snuck out of the hospital somehow, and he's hiding his blood wound with his hat. And then she starts like, she's like, I know you did it, and like, how could you do something so cruel to me? And he keeps like forgetting that she bought him his coffee because he has a concussion, and then he faints, and she's like, oh my gosh, like, well. Then he comes to, and she's like, you're not gonna see me for a while because you manipulated me, and that's not nice. You used your hacking ability. By the way, he's a hacker.
Of course
He's
he
been
is.
since the beginning. The way he wronged people was that she told him how one of the guys on the football team, she was tutoring him, and he asked for her number, and then she gave him his number, and he sent her a revealing picture of himself. So he needed to expose that to the whole school and make him quit. He blackmailed him. He said, you quit the football team or I'm going to expose you to the whole school. Because you sent this girl a picture of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like high school.
Okay. I mean, maybe you know better than I do.
Yeah, I am the only one of us that went to high school.
Well, I feel like I went to high school, and I feel like, well, we didn't have pep rallies really, so like, which is kind of, whenever I think back on my high school, like apparently like we just did not care about our sports team that much.
That sounds
Like,
blasphemous from what I know of California.
our school like has a really good had a really good academic program, and like our academic decathlon trophies were plastered everywhere, but our football team just wasn't that good. Our baseball team was like okay, from what I heard. I never went to any. And like, I don't know, like nobody, maybe they did have it, but they were like really hush hush because I never saw any posters anywhere like, come to the pep rally tonight.
Ours
I
were
don't even
required.
remember if our I don't even remember if we had like morning announcements.
I think you just have a poor memory. There's no way.
Like we sort
And
of
I
did,
don't-
but like no, it wasn't like in TV shows where it's like a student who goes to school with you who's like, okay, Washington High, get ready for the Riverdale. Blah, blah, blah. There was none of that. It was just like the principal was like, today this is happening, this is happening.
That's
okay,
morning
bye.
announcements.
Go
What
back
do you
to
want?
school. Well, I want the girl that the TV shows led me to believe existed.
Oh my gosh. Maybe you'll get that when you go back to high school.
I need to go back and I'll see where the pep rallies were because they hid them from me. Okay. So, I'm trying to think of what else we should talk about. Like, I guess more just like.
Okay, so I don't understand this trope because apparently this trope started as a way to cuck yourself, but now it's um evolved into someone who likes a girl but doesn't know how to talk to her, their friend who doesn't like them and therefore can talk fine hides in the bushes with an earpiece. Also,
Mhm.
if this was 1897, how did they pull this off?
I believe
I'm starting
from what
to see through this story. There's
from
holes
what
in this.
I from what I recall, it's like kind of a scene similar to like the Romeo and Juliet, like she's in a tower, he's downstairs, just behind a bush is a dude whispering stuff. But like
I choose to believe that all Shakespeare plays are that now.
honestly though there probably was like a line guy even back then, right?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my god. That'd be like, I feel so bad for the actor who's like in the middle of like this live performance, like he's talking to the skull, and then he's like, line.
I don't think they did it during live performances. I think that's only during dress rehearsals.
What if it wasn't though? What if like they got this guy because they're like, oh my gosh, we don't have anybody else who wants to be an actor today, and women aren't allowed to act, so like
Yeah,
you
because
just
if
need to
women
be
were allowed
Julie.
to act, we'd have a ton of actors.
Yeah. Well that's half their half their staff is cut.
I guess so.
The women that wouldn't want it to be in it.
Anyway, so
Anyway.
how did it change? I want to know the history of that.
Okay. So what were you saying?
So I want the history behind how the trope changed so drastically.
I mean, that's a big ask,
It
but
is, but that's what I'm
let's.
interested in.
Um, I mean, I feel like it's just more like I've definitely seen this trope like forever, and
Right.
it's never really. I don't think it's ever fully changed
I
completely
think it has.
because, well, because I remember they did this in an episode of Lizzie McGuire. I think it's more just. It's not so much that it changed to like where they're both in love with the girl,
No, that's
because
what it
that's still
started with.
that's what it started with. But I think sometimes it's they just sort of play around with who's in love with who. Because like in the Lizzie McGuire episode that did it, Miranda was in love with this guy, and so Lizzie was telling her what to say, but she was hiding in the trash can, and he caught her in the trash can, and he assumed that she was in love with him, and so then he fell for her.
Wait, but that happened with okay, similar thing in Miraculous, right?
Mm-hmm. I thought you were gonna say the episode, but I know
I
which one you're
was
talking.
trying.
Anna.
Yeah,
Okay.
Animan. That was it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. Except that was like that was equally a comedy of errors as it was.
Yeah.
That was like very Shakespearean, right? Because it was like
Yeah. Because Nino's in love with Marinette, who's in love with Adrian, who thinks that he's gonna be there, but then he's not. He's behind the bushes, and
right,
then
but
Alia's
then
also behind the
yeah,
bushes.
but
I
then
love the idea.
Nino ends up with Alia. Yeah,
And Adrian and Marinette don't end together.
they don't end up together, which is like, if this was true, it was almost a Midsummer Night's Dream, honestly.
Yeah, I feel like. Yeah, no, definitely. And to be fair, Cyrano definitely probably got inspiration from that because Shakespeare's like 1500s or something, right?
Okay.
Or is he 1800s too?
No.
Okay, I thought so. Okay,
No.
I felt. Well, you made me second guess myself. I thought I was wrong. I'm not that smart. I don't quote books at people.
I mean, neither do I. So.
Ugh. But yeah, so I guess what's interesting about this trope though is that like I don't, except for the Lizzie McGuire one, I don't see a whole lot of like the reverse. Like I've never seen like a girl Cyrano. Like
I'm sure that's out there.
like they've done like the earpiece thing, but I'm just saying like they haven't done it like the full deal. Like they're now at least two off the top of my head I can list of, and there are actually more out there that are like actual like complete
That's because girls get too
retelling.
jealous of each other. So
I
they
guess.
couldn't just cuck each other.
I just feel like my problem with this story is they need to find a way to make the girl not seem super dumb, right? Like,
Yeah, you'd think
because
for
it just,
someone who's so smart, she would have taken less time to figure it out.
yeah, like, she had to, like, break into his house to figure
Like,
it
she
out.
wasn't ever like, hey, we're dating now, meet my best friend.
No,
That's weird.
I think what's also weird too is just like in this and also in Let It Shine, they always say weird things where it's like adoy, like it's like the equivalent of Clark Kent's glasses.
Yeah.
Because she'll say things like, sometimes I feel like I'm dating two people. Or
Yeah, but that's just,
why
they're
is
just
he
trying to
so
have, like,
so
what would that even be? Dramatic irony? I guess.
I
Or,
I
like,
guess, but like when she's talking to her best friend who like totally gets her and understands her, and she's like, "Why is it that sometimes he's so like smart and gets me, and then other times he's like a dummy head?" Like it's like not like when I talk to you, but then at that point it's like if you want to talk to me so much, why don't you just date me?
or
But
talk to me more. I don't know.
I don't know. Like
That's what I mean. That's what confuses me about the whole, like, and this happens frequently in rom coms and teenage uh dramedies. I don't know, teen movies, where it's like, oh, there's a note in my locker. It must be from the guy I like. It couldn't possibly be from my best friend. Because when you have those platonic feelings, a note, when you find out the author is your best friend, that's not going to make you go, wow, I'm in love with him because he's in love with me. And I had platonic feelings before, but now they're romantic. That's what I
they're
mean, you know?
also yeah. There, because there's all at one point, Boo Boo Stewart says, "Oh my gosh, she's in love with you too. She just doesn't know it yet." But like, she's had 8 years to know it, sir.
I mean, because my thing is, like, there's. Sorry.
Hmm.
I swallowed the wrong way. Um,
Did you swallow a moth? Are you gonna turn invisible now?
I hope so. I don't have a sister, though, so. No invisible
You're gonna
sisters.
stay invisible.
Oh no. Um, uh. Oh gosh, I lost my train of thought.
If you have a best friend and you didn't like them before,
Oh, there's a difference between, like, there's tension there. There's romantic tension between the best friends, and like they're just whatever, afraid to admit it, or don't realize how much they care for each other, or whatever, and being completely platonic. One side being completely platonic, and then all of a sudden being like, oh, I love him because he loves me, and I instantly fall in love with anyone who loves me.
yeah.
Right?
I mean, I guess that I feel like that's like more than just like this sort of trope. That's more like the best friend love dynamic in all of
Oh, for
the
sure.
shows because there's some that like are done in an okay way where it's like clearly there was like UST there and it was building up and it's like finally somebody just did something about it, But then there's the other type where it's like, one example I can think of that's like, I never really liked this, but I don't. In the Big Bang Theory, I don't know if you ever watched it,
Ah, yes, the Bing Bong Theorem.
but like, Leonard was hopelessly pining after Penny, and she was well aware of this the whole time. And just like after a few seasons, he just sort of wore her down, so she threw him a bone, and then they're together.
Forever. Yep.
They had an on and off relationship, but it was pretty much just always her being
Yeah, but they ended
like,
up together in the end, from what I understand. Not that I watch it.
yeah, no, I mean, they get married,
Yeah, okay.
but like, it's just like weird because it reminds me of like, I remember this, someone was telling me about this like older couple they knew, and he was like telling the story about how they got together, and he was just like, it was like the way he even tells the story, it's like she couldn't stand me, she hated me, my guts, and she wanted nothing to do with me, but I wore her down. And like the way he would tell the story made it like so sad, and so like, oh my gosh, never tell anybody how you guys got together. This is nothing to be proud of. This is like the lowest point in your whole life. But like, so that's what those sorts of things remind me of. And it's just like, I don't know. And it's not, I can't really think of like the girl equivalent in
Yeah.
shows. It's mostly just, I can't think of
That's. I was
that
thinking of that
dynamic.
too. I'm like, that's mostly like male dominated. There's not a lot of girls that are
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna keep. Because you know what happens? I think this kind of plays to an unfair double standard. If a girl were to constantly keep throwing themselves at a guy and like keep on insisting and giving him notes and stuff, she would come across as desperate
Mm-hmm.
or
But yeah.
like trying too hard or something. Like, oh, he
Yeah.
doesn't like you, just move on. But when a guy does it, it's like, oh, that's so sweet, he really likes her.
Yeah, and then the girl's bad because it's like, why can't you just be with him?
Right.
He wants you, like.
Like,
But
can't you
yeah,
see how much he cares about you? Yeah.
I guess the other thing too, though, is just because of how like TV portrays men and women anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Is the reason it doesn't happen is because like if your girl best friend decides she wants to be with you, you'll just be like, all
All
right,
right. Yeah.
okay.
Exactly.
But like, even though that's like, I, I don't know. It just.
Yep.
This movie, it was like I said, it wasn't like super horrible or anything. It was like whatever. But as I was watching it, I was just like, Roxy just hashtag Roxy's the worst, basically. So I had to talk to you about
um,
because it
what a
fits in with
terrible
our
name.
kind of thing.
Also,
I mean, I
hashtag
don't like
Roxy. Like,
I don't know why you would put a hashtag in the title.
having a hashtag in the title is bad enough as it is, but if it never comes, like, is there any title drop? I guess because if he was like making
At the very beginning
Oh,
of the
gosh.
movie,
I
they
would-
do this
I
weird
regret
like
asking.
she like walks in and it like pauses on her and like text bubbles appear and stuff, and this is like hashtag Roxy, hashtag that smile, hashtag something else that doesn't matter. And like then they do that for Boo Boo Stewart, and then they do that for Cyrus, and then that never comes into play the rest of the movie.
Wow, that's the absolute worst.
That's how they do title drop in the very beginning. So like, it's also weird too because like, for some reason this seems like the type of movie that would like social media would play like a bigger part.
Yeah, I mean it's called hashtag
It does not.
Roxy.
But it doesn't.
That's
In fact, they mostly communicate via text. They have 1 Skype call.
bad.
And like, apparently, he didn't even send her the revealing pic over Snapchat. He sent it over something where it would just keep the picture forever.
I mean, you can keep pictures forever over Snapchat.
I guess if you save them, but like, why would she want to save them if it was bad enough she had to report to her best friend and be like, take down the big bad football player for me? Why did she save it?
Because she needed it for blackmail.
I guess so. I don't. Best friends, though. That's why we're only kind of friends.
Yeah, if we were best friends, things would get really awkward
I know.
and dumb.
Like, yeah, my cousin would put a letter from me to you in your locker, and then you would think it was like Bruce.
Too complicated.
Okay. Well, I think that's about all the tropes I wanted to dish about today.
Alright.
Yeah.
I love
Okay.
tropes. I actually hate tropes, but I like talking about them. So, go find some more.
Yeah, good game.
GG.
Okay. Yeah. Alright, bye.
Goodbye.